Welcome back to the Pain Game YouTube channel. Today we have another Riyadh season Wembley edition video with the journey of Daniel Dubois all the way up to his fight with Anthony Joshua. And the young hungry lion Dubois will get way more than just winning a belt if he beats Anthony Joshua, because as Ric Flair once said, to be the man, you've got to beat the man, and Anthony Joshua has been the man in UK boxing for a long time. And if he was to pull off this win, Dubois, a lot of those fans that have loved AJ for a long time would be firmly on the Dubois bandwagon, because boxing fans, they're bandwagon jumpers, let's be real. And if Dubois pulls off this upset, he's not just setting himself up for life, he's setting his grandkids up for life. This is huge. And a lot of people don't even think it's an upset. In fact, a lot of people have this fight very close coming into it. But in terms of name value, obviously AJ is the bigger name. And before I forget, you can buy the fight using the link in the description below. Not only will you be getting yourself the best quality stream, unlike a lot of these streams online, but you will also be helping everyone out at the Pain Game, provide you with more content, so I appreciate it. Now, Daniel Dubois was born on September 6th, 1997 in London, and it is amazing to think that at only 27 years old, he is headlining Wembley against AJ. That is a fantastic achievement for him to get that far that early in his career. A lot of heavyweights, they only really come into their own in their 30s, so that just shows the level of talent that was there from an early age. Now, one of the main figures in Daniel's upbringing was without doubt his dad, who is nicknamed Dave, but his real name is Stan. He picked up this nickname in unlicensed street trading, which was where he made his living. And Dave seems like quite a smart guy when I've done a bit of research. So he made a lot of money through this street trading. He would sell posters and art. He would basically, I think, buy them in bulk at a very cheap price, fly them to America and sell them in like the hood in New York, basically. And he made a fucking fortune out of it. I mean, literally, we're talking millions of pounds by the sounds of it. So he did very well for himself and his family. And what really impressed me about Dave was the fact that as soon as he made that money, all he wanted to do was devote his time to his family. And, you know, he had a lot of kids, like, so he sort of decided, I'm going to get all my kids together and I'm going to be a single dad and just do it myself, which is very unusual, but commendable. He actually fathered 11 kids. So much like Daniel Dubois in his boxing career, he was active. Daniel was the eldest child from his second wife. Now, from what I've read up, they actually have ancestry in fighting, because a woman called Sylvia Dubois, I guess a distant relative of theirs, in the 18th century, she was an African-American slave who won her freedom in bare knuckle boxing. And I think Dave, the father, sort of attributes a lot of their fighting genes in the family to this woman. And it sounds like before Daniel was even born, his dad was convinced, this is going to be a world champion here. I've got something special. Kind of like the Tyson Fury's dad story as well. I think some of these dads are just very like, this is it. I've got a feeling. It's fucking mental how dads predict this sort of shit. You know, it might have something to do with the fact that they sort of wanted to be boxers themselves, I guess. I don't know. But it is mad how this happens. And he did train Daniel from home from being like 5 years old. He had his little boy doing press-ups for hours on end, and I think Daniel was able to do like an insane amount of press-ups when he was a young boy, like something like a world record. And looking at him now, it's no surprise. I mean, the kid is built like a fucking house. And at 9 years old, Daniel was taken down to his local boxing gym just to keep him out of trouble, which did seem to do the trick, because he doesn't actually have a criminal record, unlike Anthony Joshua, who we did in the last story. But the one issue that it did seem to have is that Daniel's dad, Dave, struggled to get along with some of the boxing coaches early on, and I'm assuming it's because he has a very, my son should be trained this way sort of attitude, you know, but he wants the best for his son, clearly, and it worked. And when Daniel was young, as with most of these stories, he was an amazing athlete. He was good at sprinting, long jump, javelin. They even thought he could have been an Olympic swimmer before he chose boxing. And part of the reason Daniel was able to excel so quickly is because he didn't do what the other young lads were doing in partying and drinking. He said even though he got a few GCSEs, even school was a distraction to him from boxing. I fucking love that, by the way. Like, I just love the fact that he's like, fuck this shit. You know what I mean? He knew what he wanted to be. However, if any young kids are watching out there, definitely stay in school, because this is a one-off, right? Probably not going to happen for you, so just do your homework. So instead of studying school subjects, Daniel was studying Muhammad Ali, Lennox Lewis, Mike Tyson. That was his maths, English and science. And also he was a big fan of Kung Fu movies as well, which I thought was quite funny. So he won his first national title at the age of only 15, and then he went to the Junior ABA Championships and won it in back-to-back years, 2015 and 2016, and he really announced himself on the amateur scene. And then he really smashed it by taking home gold at the Senior ABA Championships when he had just turned 18 years old. This got got him a spot on the English national team, and he was then able to box at the European Youth Championships. I mean, it was all happening really quickly for this guy. And it was around this time that he first stepped in the ring with Anthony Joshua in what now has become a legendary sparring session. And there's a lot of debate over what actually happened then. However, a boxer who was there at the time called Anthony Fowler, who was on Team GB and also had a very decent pro career of his own, has actually given his account of what took place. He said Joshua got caught with a short left hook and his legs completely went. Dubois could have hit him again and put him to sleep, but Dubois had too much respect for him to finish him off. Joshua's legs were like jelly. He wanted to carry on, but Rob McCracken was like, have a little break, get your legs back to normal, and then they continued. Dubois probably could have hit him again and knocked him out, but chose not to, out of respect. Now, I know a lot of people are going to debate as to how true that was, but one thing is for sure is at that age, Daniel Dubois was a serious young fighter, and at 20 years old, he turned pro, and he signed with Frank Warren, which in retrospect was a fucking masterstroke. Because Daniel isn't the best speaker, and I'm not saying Frank Warren's as good a speaker as Eddie Hearn, but he gave him a voice, and he, more than that, he managed his career really well, and he helped Daniel get the most possible out of his talent. And Daniel could have actually gone the Team GB road and tried out for the Olympics, but he felt like it was a very political setup there, and they had their favourites, and he didn't feel like they were necessarily going to give him the opportunities that he maybe wanted or deserved. So the pro road was where he was going to make his name. And Frank Warren did the right thing, right? He threw Daniel in there with a bunch of taxi drivers to show his best skills, the knockout power, and he was flattening people time and time and time again. But at some point, you've got to give him his first test. And that test came in the name of Richard Lorty. Beautiful body shot there from Dubois. And he's just... What I like about the way Dubois fights is he's a rough fighter. Beautiful straight shots from Dubois. Lovely left hook, and he's got Lorty on the fucking run. Ironically, this shot right here was considered a low blow, and obviously one of Dubois' first, real tests. It's almost identical to where he hit Alexander Usyk on the just below where the belt starts. And a lot of people said that wasn't a low blow. That it should have been a fair shot. He did the same thing in one of these early fights, and look, they considered it a low blow then. Maybe it's something Anthony Joshua might have to watch out for that. And AJ doesn't like when people fucking don't play fair like. So they come out after the low blow, and there's a lovely right hand over the top from Lorty there that backs up Daniel Dubois a little bit. He does seem a little bit more tentative out of nowhere. Yeah, that was the one that hurt him. That really hurt him. Oh, they're really fucking going for it now, son. Oh, this is fun. Fuck me, I forgot. Oh, he's really putting it on him now, though. This is the kind of test you need at a young age. And they're trading right in the centre of the ring here. But you can just see Dubois the fresher of the two, and he drops him beautifully. No, he's waved it off. He's waved it off, rightly so. That was only going to go one way, really. But it was a solid test for him early on. And the next big test for Daniel Dubois was a guy called Nathan Gorman, who was a very clever and technical boxer. His gypsy style, the way he'd slip punches, kind of like Billy Joe Saunders and Tyson Fury style. But he wasn't the athlete that Daniel Dubois was. And it was a really good way to figure out, okay, who was going to be the future of British boxing at heavyweight. And I remember watching this originally, and it's quite funny to say this, looking at the difference in physicality of the two. But I remember thinking, I really think this could go either way, because Gorman had a lot of talent, in my opinion, but I couldn't have been more wrong in being quite torn on it, because it was really a very straightforward fight. Honestly, that was a beautiful right hand landed by Gorman. But here's the thing is, Dubois, he's happy to roughhouse it with anyone. And this is how a lot of the fight looked, with Gorman sort of on the back foot against the ropes, and Dubois just punishing him. Drops him in the third round. Given that this was supposed to be a fairly 50-50 fight for a lot of people, that was shocking. It just feels like Dubois is the one who really wants to scrap, and that Gorman is kind of being forced into it. It's not the kind of fight Gorman wanted to fight. That's something that if he wants to beat Anthony Joshua, he 1,000,000% needs to manage. Again, Gorman against the ropes, just taking punishment from Dubois, and Dubois just stalking him down, right hand over the top, drops him. And really, it was just one-way traffic. Does he wave it off? Yeah, he's off. Do you know what it is? The body language wasn't good. It was just like he was just defeated from early on. There, it was just too one-sided. And after that fight, Daniel went on to have a few more first and second round stoppages. Very comfortable. He picked up the Commonwealth title as well and helped build his name up a bit more before securing a fight with Joe Joyce. And at the time, it felt like a natural fight to make. You know, you're trying to build up this new young star. You want to get him a win over a guy who's got a credible name, but equally, if you're going to be the next heavyweight champion of the world, it's a fight you should probably win. And the pressure was really on Daniel Dubois for this. The problem is Joe Joyce at the time just couldn't be hurt. And now, a word from our sponsors. If you want to improve your nutrition, your workouts, your sleep, or your stress management, I need to tell you about Lumen. You see, this little thing is the world's first handheld metabolic coach. I know, it's mental what they can make these days. So how it works is I wake up in the morning, I breathe into this little device, and it gives me an immediate reading of whether I'm burning fats or carbs. Then the Lumen will give me a personalized nutrition plan for that day based on my measurements. And the reason it's so good is it completely understands how your personal metabolism is working. It's not a one-size-fits-all approach. And make no mistake about it, your metabolism is at the center of everything you do. Whether it be weight management, energy levels, fitness, sleep, your metabolism is connected to all of that. And when it comes to your pre- and post-workout fueling, Lumen's recommendations are there to help you add your muscle mass on, if that's what your goal is, your performance, and your recovery. So you inhale for 4 seconds, hold your breath for 10 seconds, and then exhale for 6 seconds, and then you get your results, just like this. So as you can see here, as quick as that, we've got a full nutrition plan just from a breath. I mean, that does make life easy. And if you don't want to fall into the trap of putting in all that hard work in the gym, but not getting the results because you're missing important information, then Lumen could be a complete game changer for you. And if you do want to go to the next level, you can click the link in the description below and go to lumen.me/true, and you'll get 15% off your Lumen. And thanks to them for sponsoring this episode, but for now, enjoy the video. Now, Daniel's usually the one with the better jab in a lot of his fights, in my opinion. But Big Joe has a really good jab. And although it's not the quickest, he throws it all night long. Daniel, you know, in this fight, he did have an athletic advantage, right? He was the quicker and more stronger man, but he couldn't get an answer for that jab. He couldn't move his head out the way. He was getting pinged all night. And you could see after a while, that jab really started taking effect, that they're trying to work on the eye. But Joe is just, next round, bang, jab, 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 jab. And that eye is slowly but surely closing up as each second passes. He really got exposed for just a lack of head movement. And, you know, Dubois, he's landing some good shots on Joe, but Joe's chin at that time was ridiculous. Look at that, flush on the chin. Nothing doing. Joyce's composure under the pressure of Dubois. He wasn't rattled the way other people are. He just kept moving, kept throwing, kept moving, kept throwing. Probably the best version of Joe Joyce there ever was. Ooh, that fucking... Honestly, that would have dropped the horse, that. What the fuck is in Joe Joyce's chin? And he's straight back at him. And this is Dubois now practically with one eye in this round. Unreal. Just look at that eye. Come on. There you go. It's fucking... When your orbital bone is shattered, which I think from memory it was badly... His eye socket was basically fucked at this point. With every time you take a shot, it's like painful as fuck apparently. And essentially he quit in that moment. And a lot of people gave him a lot of shit for that, right? But I've seen other fighters in other sports, MMA for example, when that orbital bone goes, not many people carry on. That was a huge blow for the career of Dubois. I mean, everything was really set up by Frank Warren to use this as a win for a springboard into the bigger fights, and it was a fucking 3 steps backwards moment for him. When he doesn't stand up in time for the count, he got a lot of shit for it. Like, I remember that. He got a lot of grief. Now, fortunately for Daniel Dubois, he could go away and regroup and build his way back up into big fights. You know, when a fighter like Anthony Joshua loses at the top level, it's right back in at the deep end again. Whereas Frank Warren set Dubois up with some really good fights so that he could get his confidence back. This was one of them against Cusimano over in America. And you can see here, he's just I'm here to do a job on this bloke, be the wrecking machine that I am, and start feeling like the baddest man in the ring again. Dubois would then fight on the undercard of Usyk versus Anthony Joshua 1. Ironically, this was the fight before Dubois would himself fight Alexander Usyk, and he's fighting a guy called Kevin Lena here, and this was one of the most mental fights I've ever seen. So it's business as usual from Dubois, but he gets a clip really early on, and luckily goes down very quickly. And you're thinking, what on earth has happened? You're in the first round. This is a fight that, again, is part of the rebuilding process. We're not expecting him to be in such deep trouble early on here like this. And every time he gets touched, Dubois, I mean, he's taken a knee without even getting a hit there. It was mental, twice down, and it barely looked like he even got clipped that bad. At this point, it really felt like a matter of time before Lena closed the show, because Dubois looks like a fish out of water here. He doesn't look like he even belongs in a boxing ring. Look at him. Look, he can't even, he's down again from nothing. His balance is completely gone. His equilibrium's gone. And we talked about a similar thing that happened against Andy Ruiz for Anthony Joshua. He never fully recovered. Dubois was in a very real piece of danger here. You know, he's already got one loss on his record to Joe Joyce. He can't afford another one when he's trying to build up to a title shot against Alexander Usyk. We kind of see how the shot lands here. He's just in the pocket too long. He barely gets touched. It's so weird. I mean, what actually hits him here? Weird, man. I can't even see what hurts him, even to this day. To this day. In the second round, bit of the same here. Lena plants a stiff left hand on Dubois' chin. Dubois backpedaling, which is completely unlike Dubois. He's a front foot fighter. He's always coming forward. Nice combination. Answered by Lena. And Lena's just going for haymakers here. He's trying to close the show still. And when you see just how fragile and how much Dubois is struggling just to even move around the ring, it was very strange, because it felt like Lena had every chance to shut the lights out, and he deliberately, it felt to me at the time, was letting him off with it. Honestly, and this is a mad thing to say, and I'm not saying it was genuine match fixing, but when I was watching it, I'm like, what the fuck is going on? You've clearly got the guy incredibly hurt. His equilibrium is gone. Why are you not throwing a barrage of punches? And he just stopped throwing Lena. I mean, he literally was just staring at a fucking painting, like admiring Dubois. It was the most bizarre thing. Like, where is your authoritative punches? Why are you not putting it into him right now? You've seen he's hurt, and yet you're just letting him run around the ring, getting his energy back, and hitting him with pitter-patter, you know, little body shots that are going to do fuck all to him. It was weird, and I don't feel comfortable about this fight. There's just something not right here. From the fact that the way Dubois went down, it looked like he barely even got touched, to then him letting him off when he's clearly not right, and not throwing. It was just so bizarre. And again, Dubois backpedaling, terrified here. What's Lena doing? Fuck all. Nothing. What's that? Realistically, you've got his fucking head scrambled, and you look at him barely throwing a punch. He's just stopped throwing at all. He's barely throwing a punch to the head this round. And then he goes down from that. It was weird. And then he basically just lets Dubois tee off on him then. Not throwing a punch again. Lena still not throwing anything. No punches thrown. Like, literally, it's a fucking boxing match and you've had the guy hurt. And he's literally just letting him go. So fucking weird. There you go. Big shots, and he's down. That's what happens when you don't defend yourself at all after you hurt him. And then the referee waves it off immediately. This whole fight was just, it stunk, to be honest. And I'm not saying that it was definitely something fishy going on, but it just looked really dodgy. Do you know what I mean? Like, maybe it was just the guy's dog shit and doesn't know how to finish a fight. I don't know, but it just doesn't sit right for me. Like, I mean, the comments I'm reading now, people are saying, look, 3 knockdowns in the first round, and Lena gets waved off at the first opportunity, the minute he's even slightly hurt. Bizarre, innit? And then it was time for Daniel Dubois to take the ultimate test against the Grand Master Alexander Usyk in a heavyweight title match. What was really interesting to me about this fight was we'd seen Alexander Usyk use a lot of footwork with Anthony Joshua, and I was interested to know, how would he approach Dubois? Would he be as careful and as ever moving, or would he be a bit more in your face? And the answer for me was yes. He was still light on his feet, but he wasn't as avoidant of the fight the way he was with Joshua. He was very wary of standing right in front of Joshua. With Dubois, he was in his fucking face from the get-go. The level of respect wasn't quite the same. sticking the jabs into him immediately. And the problem with this was actually it was raining. I think this was in Poland maybe, and it was quite heavily raining. And obviously footwork is a huge part of Usyk's game, so it was a fucking mental fight. What was good for Dubois is he really was like quite light on his feet himself here, and you know he's in there with a far superior technical boxer. He was able to bounce around a bit with Usyk in a way that others just generally aren't in the heavyweight division. The thing with Dubois is, despite the technical gap, Dubois is such a tough, like, just strong, solid man. It's not easy to just blow through a guy like that. What you could argue is where Anthony Joshua had looked like he was chasing a ghost with Alexander Usyk, Daniel wasn't quite as off the pace. He was a bit more prepared, and his skill set, being that he's naturally a lighter guy than AJ from memory, and I think his age, his stamina enabled him to push the pace a bit more than AJ did with Usyk in his first fight. It made him look pretty good, right? It made him look like he belonged in there, even if he wasn't going to win the fight. Now, as you can see here in the fourth round, Daniel is throwing some low shots, right? They're going for the body shots, and they're actually done pretty well with it. Better than AJ had, you could argue, in his fight at that point against Alexander Usyk. But the shots are low. This position here is well below where the belt line is. I mean, you're not even supposed to throw it below there, from what I understand. And this is below the bottom of the belt. So, you know, it was going to be a problem at some point. And eventually, Daniel drops Alexander Usyk. And it shook up the world in that moment. The problem was it legal? And here is the body shot that did it. Boom. Oh, fuck me. Fucking hell. And a lot of people accused Alexander Usyk of play acting here, of egging it on, of a lot of things. And personally, it felt like a low blow to me. And in the eyes of the law, in the boxing rules, that was a low blow. And as I showed earlier, it had been coming because he was throwing multiple shots that were low that fight. And it's funny because at the time, a lot of people were siding with Dubois because they were Fury fans and just wanted to poke holes in the idea that Usyk was that guy. But I think in retrospect, a lot of people should look at this and go, come on, we've seen Usyk now. We've seen Usyk against Fury. Do you really think he was just trying to con the referee here? Some people actually said Dubois was robbed of being world champion at this point because that wasn't called a knockout. Now, the funny thing is, Daniel Dubois still had all the time in the world to take that fight, Alexander Usyk. He knew he was hurt, actually. So he should have been inspired to be even more aggressive. But that's not how it went down. And Usyk is just stalking Dubois towards the end of this 8th round here, in his face. Combination, and Dubois backpedaling, takes a knee, and I don't actually think he got caught with anything massive there. It was just the accumulation. Usyk had been stalking him down, he's just taking shot, but it wasn't like they were massive shots, any of these. Dubois was just struggling to hold him off. Let's look at this one to see how big of a shot this was. See, not huge shots. None of them are catching him as cleanly as Usyk would want. They're obviously slightly damaging, but I've seen Dubois get hit with worse and be all right, you know? I felt like he was mentally being broken by Usyk at this point. And that's where all of this, he should be champion of the world bollocks, just doesn't stack up to me because, you know, he still had the chance. He still could have finished the fight strong. You know, Usyk was even hurt. So the fact that he got broken down by Usyk after he got back up says everything you need to know about who was winning this fucking fight. 7 days a week, twice on a Sunday. He's throwing some decent shots, but Usyk's he's hard to hit cleanly, man. You need to hit him and trade with him as he's throwing at you, really, because that's the only way you're going to fucking land cleanly on him. What a shot that was. The lead right hand through the jaw. Daniel Dubois. And he waits for the referee to wave it off. Again, another sign that people threw in his face that he's a bit of a quitter. I'm personally a believer that you can quit in fights and come back and not quit, right? A quitter once isn't always a quitter, but it didn't look good. And a lot of people, to them to say that he should have won this fight, that it should have been, you know, called off as a TKO, when he got broken down so brutally by Usyk, it did get a bit embarrassing after this fight. A lot of people were on the Dubois side of it, and I just thought, logically, the right man won. There was pluses and minuses, though, to take from this for Dubois. Like, yes, he'd been broken. Yes, he'd quit. But he had a moment where he'd make Usyk look as weak as we've ever seen him look. As much as that was illegal, just to visualize visualize Usyk being hurt, it was shocking. And I think it gave Tyson Fury and a lot of people a lot of confidence. Like, this guy can actually be hurt. And look, they were kind of wrong. Like, I mean, obviously he can be hurt, but this idea that he's just such a weak fighter to the body and he can't take a body shot was absolute bollocks. And not just that, Daniel Dubois hits fucking hard. That wasn't any old shot, right? That was from him. One of the main things I think Daniel Dubois could take from this fight is big fight experience against the best in the world. And that is something that coming into this Anthony Joshua fight can only help him, right? He didn't win, so what? He didn't do himself a disservice. He wasn't bad in this fight. I think he actually fought really well throughout the fight, but he was just in there with one of the greatest of all time. And then it was time for Daniel Dubois to regain some confidence against a really tough guy in Big Baby Miller. I mean, over 300 pounds coming into this fight. A guy who comes forward all night. And it was really going to be a test of like, actually, are you ever going to amount to anything? Or are you always going to be the nearly guy? And we were going to get answers from Big Baby Miller because the guy is tough as shit. Look at this, man. It's just slugging away. I really enjoyed this fight. And one thing I've got to say that really impressed me about this was the will and determination we've seen from Dubois. All right, Big Baby Miller is no Alexander Usyk, but this was a grueling fight. He really had to keep going all night to keep this guy off of him. And if there's one sort of superpower he displayed in this fight, was his stamina. The amount of punches he threw, and to maintain your power so long into the end of this fight, it was really a testament to the level of athlete Daniel Dubois is. All right, I've got my concerns about him technically, but as an athlete, what a beast. And the fact that Big Baby went on to beat Andy Ruiz, in my opinion, although it was classed as a draw, I think, that really showed that Big Baby isn't a joke, right? He isn't no slouch. And this is a really credible win. And you look at the way Dubois is lighting this guy's fucking massive cinder block head up. I mean, Jesus, man. Dubois looked better than ever in this fight. And I think Don Charles had not long since started coaching him at this point. He was definitely getting the best out of Daniel. Dubois just putting everything into these punches. And he knocked Big Baby back. He's got him on the ropes. We've never seen anyone do this to Big Baby, by the way. And not that he's thought the best of competition, but it's still fucking good. He's absolutely clouting him. Swinging those hammers. Jesus Christ, how many unanswered shots has this guy taken? And Daniel Dubois gets the stoppage in a massive win for his career. This was so needed. Boom! And then came the biggest fight to date for Daniel Dubois against Filip Hrgović, who was also another huge prospect for the future at heavyweight, and actually the uncrowned king, as Usyk's belt was taken off of him and scheduled to be given to Hrgović. So unofficially, this was a world title fight. And early on, Hrgović was landing so many right hands on Daniel Dubois. I mean, his coaches must have been pulling their fucking hair out. But one thing he did show was resilience, something that we've questioned, that mental strength. Is he a quitter? And in this fight, he really proved that something had changed, that he wasn't quitting, that he was actually getting stronger. The more this guy threw at him, the more he threw back. He really grew into this fight. And physically, he was so much stronger, it felt, than Hrgović, who is a very big man himself. And as you see in here, he's answering back with power shots, and he is cutting the face of Hrgović up. And not only that, you know, I had a cameraman at ringside for this, and the level of roughhousing going on, he's sticking that forehead right towards the chin. And when he is landing, he's not just staying there and admiring his work, he's following it up with the second, third, and fourth shot against the ropes. He pinned him into that corner at times. Look at this, man. Beautiful. Just not letting him breathe. What a double jab, backhand. That was superb, that. Look, as much as AJ said he thought Dubois was going to win this before the fight, it was a surprise, right? Like, Hrgović was undefeated. We'd seen weakness in Daniel Dubois previously, but he'd really grown in confidence from that Big Baby Miller fight. And look at this. He is all over Hrgović. It was astounding, really. I mean, the level of stamina and power that he maintained in this fight again, later into the fight. If you are wanting Daniel Dubois to beat Anthony Joshua, this stamina has got to play a role in the game plan. Taking it later and trying to drown Anthony Joshua as the older fighter, being the 27-year-old little stallion that he is, Dubois, he's got to use that youth and that energy to his advantage. And this is where they call it off Filip Hrgović waved off Daniel Dubois with the biggest win of his career. I'm getting goosebumps just watching. I was there at the time. It felt like a real moment, and look at the smile on his face, bless him. I mean, you know, he's had his setbacks, and one person I've got to give a bit of credit for when I was doing my research is his dad, because his dad definitely has a very positive attitude and really reinforces his son and says, look, you don't let the mistakes get you down. Keep going. And I think that's really helped Daniel Dubois to realize his potential. But the next job is a significant step up, as Anthony Joshua is no Filip Hrgović. This man's right hands cannot be landing on you as much as what we see in Dubois tolerate in those first couple of rounds. It can't happen because it won't last long. But one thing we definitely did see in that journey is Daniel Dubois is a feared man and one of the best athletes in the division. And don't forget, we will be live on the 21st of September for this event from Wembley Stadium. Mental. As Anthony Joshua and Daniel Dubois throw hands in the middle of that ring. I can't wait. And obviously, if you want to watch the fight as well, you're going to have two screens. Paying game on one, DAZN on the other. You got to get the link in the description below clicked, and you can buy the pay-per-view from there. Thanks for everyone who does that, because not only are you getting a good stream, you're also helping out the Paying Game create more content for you lot. But that's all I've got for today. Don't forget to hit the like button, and if you haven't already, subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.